Well, hello there. Perfect timing. Emperor Trump once again aspires to ascend to power and is threatening to take over the Republic.
So this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause.
The fate of our democracy lies precariously on the brink.
Here's where the fun begins. Well, how long?
Despite defeat in 2020, the Empire has grown stronger while hiding in the shadows of fading justice.
Problem is, you're not selling it hard enough, Dart. You tell them this is the biggest, the best, absolutely the most technologically sophisticated battle station ever in the entire galaxy. It's not just any Death Star, it's the Trump Death Star.
The past few months have been wild and turbulent, just as things look darkest for the Republic, with many conceding that Emperor Trump would once again reign as Supreme Chancellor. Just as things looked at their darkest, a new hope has emerged. We have only a small window with which to take action and rebel against the Empire together.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
I'm on a top-secret recon mission to gather intelligence about Emperor Trump and his oranges of the We'll voyage the stars to search for the truth. We'll delve deep into the historical archives to see how Emperor Trump ranks compared to history's most authoritative dictators.
No disintegration.
We're going to embark on a quest to infiltrate the Empire, to interrogate Emperor Trump's former and current staff members, to get a first-hand account of the Emperor's capabilities.
It is pointless to resist.
Riskiest of all, I'm going to attempt to Jedi mind trick Emperor Trump himself to get him to reveal his true mindset.
But Mr. Trump, you're not a nice person.
But I can't do it alone. I'm going to need the help of an old Jedi. Let's be on the move. Inquiring watch.
If ever the Force would be with me, I need it right now.
First off, let's see if we can dig up some intel and some help by going to Trump's former stomping grounds, Planet Hollywood.
A wretched hive of scum and villainy.
R2, try to relay a message to the old Jedi Master. Let him know that we're on Planet Hollywood and looking for him. While we await his reply, let's see what information Emperor Trump's former colleagues have on him. And check that out. You see that one star over there that, at the moment, is burning brighter and swifter than any of the others? Let's start our search with that one.
This is where the fun begins.
If I get bad press for saying don't put a homophobic racist in office, then I get bad press for that. I really don't
stand
care.
behind that 1,000 times.
Me too.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift comes out against Trump.
I don't care if they write that. I'm sad that I didn't 2 years ago, but I can't change that. It really is a big deal. I need to do this. I need you to forgive me for doing it, because I'm doing it.
Okay.
I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous.
You should be. Ooh, I want to do this.
Okay, so I always have to bring up everything that could go sideways, or everything that we need to expect. Number one, the president could come after you.
Yeah, fuck that. I don't care.
For 12 years, we've not got involved with politics or religion.
Yeah, but this is on the home front. And also, back in the presidential election, I was in such a horrendous place that I wasn't going to pop my head out of the sand for anything.
Would you? I mean, does Bob Hope do
Well,
it?
why-
Does Bing Crosby do it? Does Mick Jagger
what
do
the
it?
hell? Come on.
No, what I'm saying right now is...
Bob
it-
Hope and
First
Bing
of all,
Crosby.
these aren't your dad's celebrities, and these aren't your dad's Republicans.
I think that it is so frilly and spineless of me to stand on stage and be like, Happy Pride Month, you guys, and then not say this when someone's literally coming for their neck.
I'm saying right now that this is something that I know is right, and you guys, I need to be on the right side of history. And if he doesn't win, then at least I tried.
Oh my God. Oh, it's so scary. This is the picture. 1, 2, 3. Go. Oh God. Oh, it's so scary. This is the picture. 1, 2,
3, go.
Hold on.
All right, cheers.
Cheers,
ladies. God help us all. Cheers to the resistance.
How worried are you about our democracy? I'm worried. I'm worried about the coarsening of America. I'm worried about how we celebrate unkindness. So I look at where we are in this sort of coarsening of our discourse, and I find it to be worrying. Well, look, it's all scary, just because there is a world where we could go back to where we were. I don't think it's as likely as people think, but I was wrong about the first election. I didn't think people would. I didn't think people would vote for someone who was so deeply flawed. I know Donald Trump. That's the thing is people. I have his phone number in my phone book. He was just this knucklehead. I knew him before he was, a president. He was just a guy who was chasing girls. Every time he went out, he'd come over and be like, "What's the name of that girl?" That's all he was. He was the guy that came to the bars and asked me about which cocktail waitress was single. That's who he was. This is back in the 90s. Not that long. No, back in the 2000s, quite honestly. And so there's this part of you that just goes, well, that guy shouldn't be. But I was wrong, and he was. And our democracy, I believe, paid a price, certainly around the world. And I worry about the possibility. I don't think it's as good as some people are afraid of, but I do worry about it. There's a lot of things that have to be repaired. There's a lot of healing that has to happen, and it's going to take time.
Donald say he wants to run for president and move on into the White House. Why not? It wouldn't be the first time you pushed a black family out of their home.
As a mental health professional, probably America's most famous mental health professional, what is your diagnosis of Donald Trump?
Well, I've known Trump for a long time.
Right.
And I think people can make up their own minds about whether he's diagnosable or not.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say we can probably all agree that he lacks diplomacy. Would you agree he lacks diplomacy?
Yes, I would agree.
Would you agree that he has an impulse control problem?
Yes, I absolutely would agree with that.
Would you agree that he thinks people see things from only his point of view?
Well, I think he would like it that way, yeah.
Sure. I think if you go look up certain personality disorders, you might see some of those things appear.
I'm not a Jedi, but I believe he's an old friend of ours. He's a good fella.
I'm going to say one thing. Trump.
Trouble with Trump is he's not just a bully. He's a stupid bully.
This guy should not be president, period. He's so stupid. I mean, look at the lame, inane things that he said. He's so stupid, he can't even say anything clever or smart. He's a moron. But he's a scary one.
I mean, he's so blatantly stupid. He's a punk. He's a dog. He's a pig. He's a con, a bullshit artist, a mutt who doesn't know what he's talking about, doesn't do his homework, doesn't care, thinks he's gaming society, doesn't pay his taxes. He's an idiot. Colin Powell said it best. He's a national disaster. He's an embarrassment to this country. It makes me so angry that this country has gotten to this point, that this fool, this bozo, has wound up where he has.
He's sick. He is really, genuinely a sick person that somehow has been allowed into our system. And I'm not calling him, I'm tired of calling him names. He just can't be anywhere near the office of the presidency.
The former president lied to us more than 30,000 times during his years in office. And he's keeping up the pace in his current campaign of retribution. But with all his lies, he can't hide his soul. He attacks the weak, destroys the gifts of nature, and shows disrespect, for example, by using Pocahontas as a slur.
I don't think they understand how dangerous it will be if he ever, God forbid, becomes president.
I don't think they really understand. And historically, from what I see, even in Nazi Germany, they had it with Hitler. They don't take him serious. He looks like a clown, acts like a clown. Mussolini, same thing. These guys, I don't know why, they look like clowns. They somehow, that element of society identifies in some ways with them, but it would be chaos beyond our imagination. There's no mystery about him. He's right out front, and what he says is what it'll be if he becomes president. He'll find this guy has done everything possible, much worse than I ever thought, ever. The day after he was elected, I said, well, give him a chance, you never know, you'll see, but he's worse than I ever could have imagined. We are at a moment in our life, in this country, where this guy is like a gangster. He's come along and he's said things, done things we say over and over again. This is terrible. We're in a terrible situation. We're in a terrible situation. And this guy just keeps going on and on and on without being stopped. You know, even gangsters have morals, and they have ethics. They have a code.
Maybe not more code.
A code. They have a code. And you know, when you give somebody your word, it's your word, because that's all you have is your word.
Right.
Especially in that world. This guy, he doesn't even know what that means.
No. He has all the best words, but he doesn't mean anything.
Talks how he wants to punch people in the face. Well, I'd like to punch him in the face. This is somebody that we want for president? I don't think so. What I care about is the direction of this country. And what I'm very, very worried about is that it might go in the wrong direction with someone like Donald Trump. If you care about your future, vote for it. There has to be a time where you have to say, okay, that's it. No, we're not doing that. We're not allowing that to happen. And this is the time in this country.
Then this moment is about decency and democracy to you?
It's decency and right and wrong. And democracy follows. You have to know how to behave in order to make the democracy work. You would like everyone to come together, and maybe we will. I don't know. I mean, as far as Trump goes, he hasn't changed. And I was always saying, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he'll change and do something. He hasn't done anything, as far as I can see, that changes from who he really is. We want to live in a world that we want to live in and enjoy living in, or live in a nightmare. Vote for Trump, and you'll get the nightmare. And in all seriousness, and we know it here, people have to get out and vote and vote and vote and vote.
Welcome to the revolution of love. To the rebellion. To our refusal as women to accept this new age of tyranny, where not just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It took this horrific moment of darkness to wake us the up. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity.
A really bad feeling about this. Beloved Donald Trump?
The beloved
that's
Donald
running
Trump.
for
President of the United States of the America.
Oh, president?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was resident. So he's not only going to live there, he's going to run the show?
It's his plan.
No, it's not so much. No, I don't think so.
So the fact that
But what did he say?
He said he was a fan of you, that he loved the way you stood up for America in Air Force One.
Get off my plane. It's a movie.
And he liked
Donald.
the way...
It was a movie. It's not like this in real life. But how would you know?
The late, great Hannibal Lecter. He's a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last saying? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner. This poor doctor. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter. Congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter.
You would think that the world would feel compelled to take action, meaningful action, by what the consensus of science tells us about the threat of climate change. But around the world, elements of leadership, including in my own country, to preserve their stake in the status quo, deny or denigrate science. They are on the wrong side of history.
If we ignore that science and sort of put our head in the sand, we're not going to succeed together.
It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows.
Sound science must guide us. To ask governments, businesses, communities to act, to change behavior, to invest in the environment and our future. We need science. We are faced with what I believe is the greatest moral crisis of our time. That those least responsible for nature's destruction will suffer the greatest consequences.
I'm looking for Jedi Master in hiding.
Good question, right? That means you either know, well...
If you see him, let him know that I'm looking for him. It's
Interesting.
important.
I have no idea what to make of your answer.
Action. You!
Come in. Kenny, kennel up. What are you doing here, you son of a bitch? Oh, cut the You think you can walk in here and say you're sorry after what you did? I'm done with that Star Wars crap, and I'm done with you. Out! Get out! Out of here! Get out! I don't want to talk to you. Get out of here, and don't come back. She was my wife! She's still spitting up hairballs!
Do you think that the Trump presidency is scarier than a Stephen King novel?
Short answer to that is yes, I do. I do think it's scarier.
Does Trump remind you of anyone from any of your own stories, master of horror that you are?
You know, in a way, yes, he does. He reminds me of, there was a character, Greg Stilson, in The Dead Zone. They reminded me a little bit of him, and I don't think that I necessarily predicted Donald Trump when I wrote The Dead Zone. I know that American voters have always had a real attraction to outsiders with the same kind of right-wing America First policy. And if that reminds people of Trump, I can't be sorry, because there was a character that I wrote. It was a boogeyman of mine, and I never wanted to see him actually on the American political scene, but we do seem to have a Greg Stilson as president of the United States. I was sort of convinced that it was possible that a politician would arise who was so outside the mainstream and so willing to say anything that he would capture the imaginations of the American people. No balloons for Donald Trump. They take him as a joke at first because he has these rallies and he throws hot dogs to the crowd and says, When Greg Stillson's elected, you're going to say, hot dog, we got a real mover and shaker at last.
You're going to be so tired of winning.
Crazy stuff that nobody would possibly believe, or so we thought, until Donald Trump came along. When I think about Trump, I think about the Superman comics I read when I was a kid. You know, it was like Obama was president, and you know Bizarro World?
Yeah, sure.
Superman comic book.
Yeah.
So Obama was president. Trump is like Bizarro president. You know, so there's some of that.
Just to balance out the universe, we had to have that kind of mix.
My worry at the time that I wrote The Dead Zone was that somebody like Greg Stillson might actually get elected and rise through the ranks, become president of the United States, and start World War III. The irresistible force meets the immovable object, if you will. Had I really known the future, I could have had Greg say, well, I've got a button, and it's bigger than your button.
My button is bigger than yours, and my button works.
My destiny. He's a huckster from the word go, and in that sense, he's got a lot of that Trump genome in him. The last time I was here, I had a president who had just given me a National Medal of the Arts thing, which we argued over.
Yeah.
And now we've got a president who blocked me on Twitter. Except the court says he can't block anybody. So my question is, do I really want to follow that guy? I don't think so.
What did you do, Stephen King? What did you do to that good man that hurt his feelings so much?
I might have said he had his head somewhere where a certain yoga position would be necessary to get it there. And that was it, man. That was it.
I don't think he's that flexible. I don't think he can do it. I don't think he can do it. Have you ever blocked anybody?
Yes, I blocked Donald Trump.
You blocked Trump?
I did.
I just don't think he's very smart. He's the most powerful man in the world, and he always plays the victim card. The Dems are out to get me. The media is out to get me. You got to be the leader. You got to be the strongest man in the game. The man has got to be a leader, and he hasn't shown that yet.
Are you and Donald close? He called me the other day.
He did.
For real.
Didn't end it? Or did you pick it up?
It was like DC, private, right? I picked it up 2.5 weeks ago, and he's like, Mark? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, what do you think about the stock market? Oh, hi, Donald.
I just don't think he's very smart.
Right.
We've always had a love-hate relationship. When I say something negative about him, he hates me, and when I say something nice about him, he loves me. It doesn't matter. If you say something nice about Donald Trump, you know, he'll love you no matter what. So when he first started to run, I didn't really take it all that seriously, but I came out and I said it was refreshing to have a candidate that was candid, wasn't scripted, said what was on their mind, and wasn't traditional. And so during the primaries, I supported him against Ted Cruz. He has no sense of balance. He has no situational awareness, and that's what gets him into so much trouble.
Why was he the best thing that happened to politics, and now he's the never Trump?
At the beginning, he was a business person, and I wanted to see a change from the traditional politician, but then he went and opened his mouth. You know? I mean, he had a really good chance to be different and really have a chance to change things, but he doesn't do the work. He's lazy.
When he first announced, I thought there's no chance he's winning, right? Shot. And all of a sudden, he's calling me. And he's calling me, asking me advice, talking to me about, telling me everything he's doing, the whole 9 yards. And so I'm like, look, Donald, you know, you got to learn this stuff, right? You can't just wing it. Yeah. And that's when we came apart.
Yeah, just busted here.
Yeah. And after that, he sent me a note, and he goes, what happened? I'm like, that's what it is.
And I would talk to him all the time, and he would call me up, and he'd say, have you seen the polls and this and that? And from time to time, as he started talking about things, I was like, Donald, I mean, I can't support you on these issues. Some of the stuff is just batshit crazy, but I don't want Ted Cruz to win. And he was like, oh, that's okay, Mark, that's okay. We'll see what happens. And I honestly didn't think he believed he would win. Look, he is who he is. Would I hire him to run a company for me? No. If you notice with Trump, in the whole convention thing, none of his business partners are coming forward. They're not coming forward to speak. They're not coming forward in the media to say good things about him. They're not coming forward to give him money. So that's one, red check mark. So I find out about that. I talked to different people he's done projects for, right, to find out what was their experience, right? What he's doing socially, immigration, EPA, who knows what's real and what's not, rounding up immigrants that are legally here. I think his implementation and execution of stuff is severely lacking, and I don't think they're thought through. I remember it was about this time last year when the whole topic of encryption came up with Apple and the FBI, and I tried to explain it to him. And it was just, there was no point. And so as time went on, it got to the point where it was obvious he wasn't making an effort to learn.
In the billionaire world, what's the take on Donald Trump? Like, what do you like when you guys all get together to be billionaires together? Like, how do you guys treat him?
Well, in the meeting, we voted him out.
He doesn't get to come to the meetings anymore?
I mean, no meetings. We literally changed the secret handshake.
Donald, I've told you, at some point, you've got to learn the issues. And that was last time I talked to him.
So you called Trump not very smart, and he wrote a fortnight ago, I know, on Twitter, of course. I know Mark Cuban well. He backed me big time, but I wasn't interested in taking all of his calls. He was not smart enough to run for president. Who's smarter, you or Trump?
It's like asking me if I'm smarter than a ham sandwich. Donald Trump, who rips off people for thousands, gets offered by some dictator somewhere, some despot somewhere, $20 billion. Do you think he's going to do what's right for the country? Or do you think he's going to take the money? Do you think he's got the fortitude to do the right thing? Do you think he cares more about you or his bank account? I think the bigger overriding problem is in terms of leadership and management and personal issues for him. I don't think he's a leader.
Well, this is interesting. I'm looking for a Jedi. We found a Terminator.
I was born with a father that was a Nazi. Where I come from a place where this has been done once before. And I don't want that to happen again. Anything that I see that really bothers me, I get involved with it. And if it is the fight against fossil fuels and to create a clean environment, if it is motivating people to get up and to go and become successful, or if it is prejudice and hatred that I've seen over the years rise. So it became kind of alarming to me, and I said to myself, you don't have to just sit there and watch this whole thing. I think that you can get involved and use your platform to kind of speak out about that and how wrong it is because of my history. I come from a country that was part of the Second World War, Austria. I mean, Hitler himself was part Austrian. And it's all because we let this grow, this anti-Semitism and this hatred. As an immigrant to this country, I would like to say a few words to my fellow Americans. President Trump sought to overturn the results of an election, and of a fair election. He sought a coup by misleading people with lies.
You drew this parallel between participating in Nazi hate during World War II and hateful ideology that is growing in the U.S. now. Is that the path America is on right now?
I don't know if it's the path that we're on, but I know there's the danger that we go in that direction. My father and our neighbors were misled also with lies. And I know where such lies lead. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever. The good thing is that his son will be as irrelevant as an old tweet. Prejudice and hate goes into so many different directions. It's not about that you believe that Trump's election was stolen or not. It has nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with just in general, all over the world, we have this problem now, that there's this hate and there's this prejudice. And we're talking about men against women, women against men, black against white, white against black, Americans against immigrants, immigrants against Americans. It's just like this, it's just, he's from over there and he's a Muslim and he's a Jew and he's black and he's this. I just think that we have to just diffuse that. I'm very aware of Kristallnacht, or the night of broken glass. It was a night of rampage against the Jews carried out in 1938 by the Nazi equivalent of the Proud Boys. Wednesday was the day of broken glass right here in the United States. So being from Europe, I've seen firsthand how things can spin out of control. I know there is a fear in this country and all over the world that something like this could happen right here. The kind of atrocities that happened, how many millions of people had to die, and then they ended up losers. You know, the Confederacy, losers. They say all of this just doesn't work. I mean, let's just go and get along, and love is more powerful than hate.
And they hired a big movie star, Arnold Schwarzenegger, to take my place. And we know how that turned out. The ratings went right down the tubes. It's been a total disaster. And Mark will never, ever bet against Trump again. And I want to just pray for Arnold if we can for those ratings, okay?
Hey, Donald, I have a great idea. Why don't we switch jobs? You take over TV because you're such an expert in ratings, and I take over your job. And then people can finally sleep comfortably again.
You said history shouldn't repeat itself. Donald Trump is now the front runner to be the nominee of your party, of the Republican Party. Given everything you said, does that concern you?
Absolutely not, because being a front runner of one party and letting them dig this hole deeper and deeper is going to make it easy for the Democrats in the end to win. It's sad to see that they couldn't come up with a new talent, with a new face that is a reasonable, smart, intelligent person that can lead this country in a Republican way.
You think there's no way he would win again?
No. There's too many people now that have seen what he did as president, that I think when it comes to the majority on election day, I think they will see the difference between one or the other. And believe me, I'm not the first one to say, hey, this is really great to have Biden back as president. No, but there's just no better option there, the way it looks right now. President Trump is a failed leader. He will go down in history as the worst president ever.
Bring up some people and give them a fucking stick. I just think you can express yourself however you feel. He's got it. Go ahead. Let's do this. for the last year. Thank you, gracias. We love you. Stay the fuck away from the pulpit.
Thank you, Hollywood Foreign Press. Just to pick up on what Hugh Laurie said, you and all of us in this room really belong to the most vilified segments in American society right now. Think about it. Hollywood, foreigners, and the press. So Hollywood is crawling with outsiders and foreigners. And if we kick them all out, you'll have nothing to watch but football and mixed martial arts, which are not the arts. An actor's only job is to enter the lives of people who are different from us and let you feel what that feels like. And there were many, many, many powerful performances this year that did exactly that. Breathtaking, compassionate work. But there was one performance this year that stunned me. It sank its hooks in my heart. Not because it was good. There was nothing good about it. But it was effective and it did its job. It made its intended audience laugh and show their teeth. It was that moment when the person asking to sit in the most respected seat in our country imitated a disabled reporter, someone he outranked in privilege, power, and the capacity to fight back.
I don't know what I said.
It kind of broke my heart. And I saw it, and I still can't get it out of my head because it wasn't in a movie. It was real life. And this instinct to humiliate, when it's modeled by someone in the public platform, by someone powerful, it filters down into everybody's life because it kind of gives permission for other people to do the same thing. Disrespect invites disrespect. Violence incites violence. When the powerful use their position to bully others, we all lose.
That's why our founders enshrined the press and its freedoms in our Constitution. So I only ask the famously well-heeled Hollywood Foreign Press and all of us in our community to join me in supporting the Committee to Protect Journalists, because we're going to need them going forward, and they'll need us to safeguard the truth. One more thing. Once, when I was standing around on the set one day, whining about something, you know, we were going to work through supper or the long hours or whatever, Tommy Lee Jones said to me, "Isn't it such a privilege, Meryl, just to be an actor?" Yeah, it is, and we have to remind each other of the privilege and the responsibility of the act of empathy. We should all be very proud of the work Hollywood honors here tonight. As my friend, the dear departed Princess Leia, said to me once, "Take your broken heart, make it into art." Thank you for it.
I'm sorry, but you made this easy. No one can understand a word you say. You've got a terrible temper, and let's face it, your grooming habits are seriously lacking. I just have to say, Chewbacca, you're fired.
Oh, Chewie.
I know you've had a hard day. What if I told you I've got a job for you and a way that you can get back at that guy?
I think he's selfish, he's racist, he's misogynist, he's a liar.
It's not the Jedi I was looking for. A Jedi Master we found, nonetheless. Master Window.
In the name of the Galactic Senate of the Republic, the fact of the matter is Donald Trump is dangerous for this country. In fact, his campaign ads even come with disclaimers now.
It's time to vote for a proven leader. It's time to usher in a new era of American pride. It's time to re-elect Donald J. Trump. Voting for Donald Trump may not be right for everyone. Common side effects include racism, sexism, nepotism, corruption, collusion, xenophobia, homophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, hypocrisy, delusion, gullibility, paranoia, fascism, greed, rage, hate, fear, and mullets. Voting for Donald Trump may cause you to catch the coronavirus at a monster truck rally and die. If you experience pain or discomfort as a result of being tear-gassed, beaten, or shot by white supremacist vigilantes, stop voting for Donald Trump immediately and seek medical attention. Disorientation and dizziness could be a sign that you just drank bleach. Other possible side effects include destruction of the economy, the Constitution, the ecosystem, the idea of truth, the post office, and basic human decency. Before voting for Donald Trump, ask your doctor if you're insane, because you probably are. This November, re-elect President Donald J. Trump, because he alone can keep America great. I'm just kidding. He's an idiot.
Finally, something me and the Trump campaign agree on. You're under arrest, Chancellor.
Is this true that he signed you up for one of your golf clubs and didn't tell you?
Yeah.
So you had to pay, like...
No, I didn't pay.
Okay.
I got a bill that I didn't pay.
Okay.
Because I had no idea, and I had my assistant call and tell him I don't really belong to that club and I haven't been there in 3 years. And they go, well, you are a member and here's your member number. And they were charging me some pool fee for being at I haven't been there. But
I mean, really? I mean, out of all the things that need to be dealt with presidentially, he's worried about me saying that he cheats at golf? Or, that he doesn't really know me? Is that what the deal is? Wow, that's awful.
Somebody did send me something today that said Trump said he didn't know me.
He said he didn't know you. I actually have his
let me
tweet
see
right
the
here.
tweet.
This is very exciting. So there you go. It says, I don't know Samuel L. Jackson to best of my knowledge, haven't played golf with him, and think he does too many TV commercials. Boring, not a fan.
Not a bad thing.
Now, it's very interesting when Donald Trump says someone is out on TV too much, because, you know, he's with exposure, he thinks it's very careful to just barely be on TV at all.
Barely get yourself out there.
But is that true? You say, you claim right here you have met him.
Yeah, I met him a lot.
You've played golf with him.
I played golf with him.
He claims...
I actually played golf with him with Anthony Anderson one day.
Gotcha.
And we were all playing together, and we clearly saw him hook a ball into a lake at Trump National in Jersey. And his caddy told him he found it.
Now, was the caddy soaking wet when he said this?
No, he was not. Yeah, he just took off running, and next thing you know, I got it, Mr. Trump. And you're like, oh, did you see a splash? You saw a splash.
Gotcha.
Let me see. Let me fix that. Let me find something that might help me with that. This. Let me see. Can we get this on camera? Would that be a bill from Trump National? I think it is.
And he used to call me. I have another person that can verify that he knows me. He called me one day. I was here in New York, and he was always calling him, Samuel L. the Don. I go, who? The Don. Mr. Trump, how you doing? Yeah, you busy today? No. You want to play golf? Sure. Well, I'm not going to play, but I got a friend who wants to play, and we're going to play at my club in, it was over here. Not in Manhattan, but the other Trump club that's on this side of the bridge. And when I got there, it was President Clinton.
Really?
Who could also verify that Donald Trump knows me.
Wow. Here's the bummer.
And Don did show up, and he took Bill in and bought him a jacket and gave me nothing.
I got bad news for you.
Yeah.
The one person that might not back you up right now in this story is Bill Clinton, because I don't know if he's going to want to say a story that he was golfing with Donald Trump either.
Why do you think he's saying...
I don't know. I don't care. Yeah, come on. He has to say whatever he has to say, he has to say. You know, it's one of those interesting things that he called me one day to play golf, not to play with him, but to play with a friend of his. And I went to play with that friend of his, and that friend of his turned out to be Bill Clinton. So it's like that. So I'm sure he'll lie about that also and say that he never did that. But I'm sure President Clinton can either verify it or ignore it, as he probably should.
Bill and I went out and played. Don showed up in the middle of the round, and we went into the clubhouse, and he gave Bill a jacket because it was a little chilly.
Wow. He didn't even ask you if you were cold?
No. I had a jacket on.
Oh, you already had a jacket on.
I was good.
I will say, if we can prove that Donald Trump is lying when he says he doesn't know you, this might be the thing that finally brings down his campaign. This might be the thing. He put up with too much.
Let's get on that.
Let's get on that.
Master, I'm looking for the Jedi in hiding. Have you seen him?
No. Everything is so changed right now. But it's time for him to come back. Leave me alone.
Are fixated on creating scapegoats. And historically speaking, scapegoating has proven to be a viable solution in society, sadly so, to quell violence. It's a tactic that the powerful have used for eons to hold a society together. The glue becomes the target that we fixate on. In our case, gays, blacks, minorities, or immigrants. These days, even books and education itself, critical race theory, ideas are becoming the scapegoat that we target and go to war against, and we unify behind this idea that we hate that thing enough or are disgusted with that thing enough that we will no longer tolerate it and will kill that thing. But you know what? Jesus became the scapegoat for us to end violence once and for all. And so he's commissioned us to no longer make scapegoats of anybody, but rather to show mercy because he showed us mercy. What does it mean to show mercy and to prefer mercy over sacrifice? What am I called to do right now in the life of these political parties in the world of this eroding democracy, of voter suppression, of gerrymandering, of ostracizing gays, of hating blacks or minorities or illegals. Am I Christian? Can I call myself Christian and not show mercy to those people? Jesus would say no.
Master Yoda, I searched extensively through Planet Hollywood, but was unable to find your former student. As time is of the essence, I must abandon the search, and I'm en route to meet you at the Jedi Archives. We spent far longer in Planet Hollywood than originally intended. We got a lot of good intelligence into the mindset of Emperor Trump. You can say that again. To make up for time, I've enlisted the help of the ship that made the Kessel Run in less than 12 parsecs. I was just getting to that. And I've enlisted the help of the best first officer of the entire galaxy, Chewbacca. It might not look like much, but a lot of special modifications have been made to this MFR. I can't believe I'm about to do this, but Chewie, prepare the jump to light speed. Next stop, the Jedi Archives. Master Yoda, I gained much insight into the mindset of Emperor Trump. I'm concerned that I'm blinded by my perspective. I thought it would be prudent to delve into the annals of the history books, see where the Emperor Trump ranks compared to the world's most authoritative dictator.
Squashing the rebellion is a $32 billion industry. So this next task is really going to be fantastic. You will be judged by these two executives, and based on their report, one of you will be fired. And sliced into tiny pieces by a lightsaber. I like your style. Oh, you guys really blew it. You had this huge Death Star thing going, and some squeaky kid from Tatooine slips in and destroys the whole shebang. Whose fault is this?
Sir, Lord Vader was in charge of marketing.
Is that true?
I meant to say, I was in charge of marketing.
You're fired.
Well, I see now.
You're fired. You're fired.
I really like
Master, in the interest of time, I'm going to jump ahead to history's greatest villain. The guy who's become the poster child for being a despot. The guy whom everybody's compared to when they abuse positions of power to commit atrocities, Adolf Hitler.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate.
I will get rid of the communist vermin. I will get rid of the communist vermin. I will take care of the enemy within. I will take care of the threat from within. Jews and migrants are poisoning Aryan blood. Migrants are poisoning the blood of our country. One people, one realm, one leader. One people, one family, one glorious nation.
Destroy the Sith. We must.
To understand the true nature of Emperor Trump's mindset, we're going to have to speak with those with whom he works the closest, his former and current staff members. And to do that, we're going to have to break in to the Empire's detention facility.
Marching into the detention area is not what I had in mind.
The detention facility is where most of Emperor Trump's former administration ends up. Not much of an exit plan working for this Empire's administration.
His failure is complete.
To infiltrate the ranks of the Empire, I'm going to have to get myself cleaned up and go deep undercover. What do you think? I'll fit right in, right? All right, Chewie, there it is. Bring this in easy, but let's keep our distance. I don't know. Fly casual. Let them catch us with their tractor beam and bring us in.
The racially charged comments, the divisive tweeting, the nonsense coming from the president is not helping the country. If you're a establishment normal Republican like I am, or you're the garden variety Democrat, you have to look at what's going on in the country and recognize that we have to cure the ills
of those people that voted for Donald Trump. He's a misogynist, he's a racist, he is somebody that mishandled the pandemic, lied about the science, wrecked the U.S. economy, and has made weaker our alliances around the world while he's denigrating Democratic leaders and praising despots. And so, yet, despite all that, he got 76 million Americans to vote for him. The racially charged rhetoric that led to a whole Twitter nonsense from the president, and obviously he then left to go to the 2 shooting areas. And so now he comes back from the 2 shooting areas. That was like a total catastrophe, because the only thing he was doing in those areas was talking about himself and praising himself and crowd sizes. And so it just, one day after the next, it gets worse and worse and worse. And so we better wake up as a society and recognize that there's a problem in the society, and there's tons of angry people out there that feel disaffected from the system. So when they hear nonsense like deep state and all that stupid nonsense, they actually believe it. They actually think that there could be a conspiracy against them. And of course, the president fuels it on his Twitter feed. The rhetoric is so charged and so divisive that we have to all just take a step back now and say, what are we doing actually? So one thing that I find reprehensible, and the president continues to do this, and I think what will end up happening is sound and reasonably minded men and women in the Republican Party will say, wait a minute, we can't do this. He is giving people a license to hate, to provide a source of anger, to go after each other, and he does it on his Twitter account. So let's just stop for a second and think about this. We ignore it, but he goes after people personally. He goes after individuals as the president of the United States on his Twitter account, okay, which incites hate, which incites death threats. I mean, at some point, I think the people in my party will have to look at all this stuff and stop being anesthetized to it and say, hey, what are we doing? The policies are great, many of them. The trade war thing is likely going to end up in an unexpected outcome. We can talk about that if you want. But lastly, how are we all tolerating this?
Is he going to run again in 4 years' time?
Well, he's already saying to people inside, remember, I have still a lot of friends that were inside the campaign and in the White House. He's already suggested he knows his goose is cooked here. Republican lawyers have told him it's almost impossible to get those states to recount. You have to be at certain thresholds. And so he knows that he's going down. And so he's going to threaten running again. And the guy's actually dissembling a little bit, and he's sounding more and more nonsensical. And, we're sort of anesthetized to it, and people inside are watching, oh, yeah, that's just President Trump. Just let him act like that. But, you're fracturing the institutions and all of the things that the country stands for. I tried to stay loyal to the president, but it became impossible. If you're putting women in cages and separating the children from them, putting the children in cages, denouncing the intelligence agencies, calling the press too many people, it just became too much. And so what I've said to my liberal friends, the president may not have changed, but over the last 5 years, I have changed. I've become more psychologically minded, more willing to accept the fact that I made a mistake in supporting him, and now it's important for us to defeat him, which we have. He's going on January 20th, and it'll be a very good day for America and the world. Well, he has a nihilistic way to his personality. So the minute you say something he doesn't like, he figures that he can intimidate you like a bully. I mean, John, where in American history or in our movies or in our culture does the bully win? So to me, this gruff, intimidating, bullying nonsense, strong people have to get together and call it out for what it is. And so that's where I stand on this. And I try to stay loyal to him, but you can't be loyal to somebody that, again, is asymmetric in his loyalty. Loyalty is not blind obedience unless you're supporting a demagogue, just from the way he's acting as a human being. So to me, a couple more weeks like this, I really do believe there will be a groundswell in the party where people say, hey, the policies are great, but you're setting us up the way Jimmy Carter set up the Democratic Party, where they went into the wilderness for 40 years.
Think now is vulnerable.
I think there's a very large group of people that are thinking about this from an intellectual point of view, that are marrying policy to country, the origin of the country, what the country stands for, why we have the first name United, and they're stepping back and saying, okay, wait a minute, this is way too divisive. Okay, he is the commander-in-chief, and he's supposed to represent everybody. And so when he's going in a direction of being this divisive and using this type of rhetoric, again, using your words, stochastic terrorism and things like that, you got to stop and say, wait a minute, if you can't take any advice from your friends and you're siloed in, you just, random tweet storming people, to me, it doesn't make any sense that it's over. If he's elected, it's just over. In his mind, the truth is whatever he wants it to be. Well, I don't believe Trump has a philosophy. I don't think he adheres to policy as we understand that term. I think he has neuron flashes. He doesn't have the slightest idea what he's doing. I mean, most presidents we think of have policy agendas. Trump does not have a policy agenda. He doesn't have a philosophy other than the greater glorification of Donald Trump. The best argument to convince Trump to take one or another decision on a national security issue was to convince him it was in his political benefit to do it. Forget the strategic analysis. What's it in his political benefit? That's possible, but it also requires believing over a sustained period of time that Trump acts like a normal president, and that is not the case. I think, though, that the attempt to order the military to do things that are illegal or unconstitutional is how this constitutional crisis on a daily basis gets started. Well, certainly what he has tried to do in the past and what he's saying he's going to do in the future go well beyond any conceivable conduct by prior American presidents, no matter how much they were considered. Richard Nixon looks like a choir boy next to Donald Trump. It's another demonstration how little of American history Trump knows. Whatever he did know, he obviously has disregarded. But we know one thing for sure, Trump never loses. And so if he's not declared the winner of 2024, as in 2020, it must be because he was treated unfairly yet again. It was stolen yet again. And I don't think he knows exactly what his theory is going to be this time to explain how he was denied winning the election, so he's trotting out a number of things. And I think this is why people need to start thinking more now about how to deny Trump the ability the day after the election, if he loses, to try and throw the process into chaos again. With Trump, anything is possible since he doesn't fundamentally believe anything. Obviously, all politicians seek to advance their political well-being. In Trump, you have the amazing phenomenon that everything is seen through the prism. How does this benefit Donald Trump? He didn't want to do something that might actually affect the election. He wanted to build the basis for an excuse to explain why he didn't really lose. And I definitely think that's what he's about.
I was very protective of her. Nobody would understand that, but I think my people understand it. They used to say, lock her up, and I'd say, just relax, please. Folks, honestly, she's guilty as hell. I think she should be in jail. She should be locked up.
Now, look, Trump can't tell the difference between what's true and what's false. It's not that he lies a lot, because to lie, you have to do it consciously. He just can't tell the difference. So he makes up what he wants to say at any given time. If it happens to comport with what everybody else sees, well, that's fine. And if it doesn't comport with anybody else, he doesn't really care. I think it's going to cause tremendous damage to the United States internationally, not to mention the damage it will cause domestically. And I said in 2020 that the damage he did in his first term was not insignificant, but it was all repairable. The damage he could do in a second term, and I say that again, even though the terms are disconnected, may be irreparable. And that's what withdrawing from NATO is. It is withdrawing from the North Atlantic Treaty. It may be that Trump doesn't do it. Maybe he can be distracted for 4 years. But the damage that he could do to NATO during that 4 years would be considerable nonetheless. And I don't see Vance doing anything to slow him down. I think he would be an accelerant on Trump's antipathy to NATO, on his desire to get close to his good friends Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and others.
Something I've heard that doesn't seem to be being covered are the Epstein files. these files were released, and like Donald Trump's sort of all over this, right? There are pictures of him with Jeffrey Epstein. He's taken multiple plane flights with Epstein, with young girls on board. He is on call logs with Epstein. One of the highest trending hashtags on Twitter right now is about Trump and Epstein. I'm not going to repeat the hashtag because we're in a dignified setting. But yeah, y'all might want to look at that because that's highly disturbing.
As chief of staff,
what a child he is. He's a baby. Whenever you want to criticize him, in any way, that's the way he responds. And you and I are both lucky enough to be parents. And if we had a child who conducted themselves like that, we'd send them to their room, not to the White House. He's saying it. See, to me, this is the most destructive thing he's done. People want to believe the President of the United States, right? And even when it's a president that I don't agree with, even when it's a president we don't agree with, if it's something really important, we want to believe them because we also want to believe that they know stuff that we don't know. And so if they're telling us something, that's when it was over for me with Donald. When he stood behind the seal of the president in the East Room of the White House at 2:30 in the morning on election morning and said the election was stolen. Turned out I was wrong. I couldn't make him a better candidate, and I couldn't make him a better president. And he disappointed me, and he disappointed a lot of people in my party, and a lot of people in this country by the way he performed. And for me, the breaking point was election night 2020, when he's out there at 2:30 in the morning claiming the election was stolen, when I knew he had no evidence to prove that. And when you undercut democracy in that way, you have forfeited the trust, in my view, to hold that office that he's now trying to regain. But show me the evidence. If I see the evidence, I'm happy to support fighting all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court and beyond. But there's no evidence. And so, I'm sorry, all these conspiracy theories, he still talks about, they're bringing boxes of ballots into, Fulton County, Georgia. No matter how many times we explain to him, that's the way they do it. The ballots get collected at the local places in Fulton County, and then the boxes get brought to the central place to be counted. So of course, all night boxes of ballots are being brought in. But people see little clips on the internet of video, whatever, and Pat and I sat with him on Valentine's Day 2017 and had lunch with him in the dining room off the Oval Office. And he said to me, "What's your political advice for me?" And I said, "Mr. President, you didn't win the election, she lost it. She blew it. But it doesn't matter, because look where we're sitting. You're the president. So now, make the next 4 years about the country. And if you make the next 4 years about the country, you're going to get reelected in the landslide. Make it about them, not about you. And if you do that, you're going to win." And he looked at me, and you'll remember this. He shook his head and he goes, "Chris, you worry too much." When I make a misjudgment, I'll admit it. And I thought I could make him better, and it wound up I couldn't. In fact, he was much worse. How many people out here are parents? Can you raise your hand? All right. Look, that's like when your kid comes home from school with a bad grade. And you're like, well, how'd this happen? The teacher's unfair. The test was rigged. It was none of the stuff that she told us to study. And the guy next to me was talking the entire time and distracting me, and that's why I did bad on the test. That is a child. It's a child. That's a child's reaction, everybody. Every parent out there recognizes it, knows it. It's a child's reaction. And I beg you to think about this. Don't allow the showmanship to obscure the facts. The facts are he lost to Joe Biden. And he lost to Joe Biden, in my opinion, because he lost independent voters. And he lost independent voters because they took a chance on him in 2016 because they didn't like Hillary Clinton. I'm all for that. But guess what? They wanted to see performance. And I think character is destiny for this country. And we've got to make a decision about what the character of the person should be who sits behind the desk in the Oval Office. And if they're going to do that kind of stuff, I mean, it doesn't even, it's so childish. It's so juvenile. He is such a spoiled baby that, beyond that, what can you even say about something like that that's that ridiculous? You know, in the end, for me, it's about how you perform as a person. Yeah, what kind of heart you have.
He lost in 2018. He lost in 2020. He lost in 2022. How many more times do we have to see Donald Trump lose before we get it?
You know, Donald Trump continues to talk about the past. I'm talking about the future. The American people, want to see government work for them again. They don't want to talk about a past election. They don't want to talk about whether it was stolen or not. They want to know what the next president's going to do for them.
This is not about whether we like Donald Trump. I have no personal problems with Donald Trump. I voted for him twice. I was proud to serve America in his administration. This is about the fact that we are tired of losing.
I want him to acknowledge some things that really happened. He let Republicans and Democrats spend like drunken sailors and put us in the situation that we're in along with Biden. I look at the fact that he's now walking back from Ukraine, which is making America less safe. I look at the fact that he did good on calling out China on trade, but he didn't say anything about China buying up our farmland or stealing our intellectual property or sending fentanyl across the border. I have a lot of policy issues that I can sit there and talk about Donald Trump on. But the thing is, everybody's ready to move forward. And I know y'all love to talk about this past election. He's going to say what he's going to say. That's who Donald Trump is. It always is. I'm not going to talk about whether an election was stolen. I'm going to talk about what real American families want to talk about. And that's the fact that they're hurting right now, and we need to give them some relief.
What is he afraid of? Is it that he knows I know too much about his record? Is it that he knows that he proposed a 25-cent per gallon gas tax increase when he was president? Is it that he knows that I know he pushed for amnesty? Is it that he knows that I know exactly how he had this bromance with Putin and China, and we had to get him to back off and stop praising dictators? Is it the fact that he knows that he praised President Xi 12 times after China gave us COVID? Why did he not ban TikTok when he had the opportunity to do it? Why did he agree with China on allowing ZTE to do what they were going to do, even though he knew it was against America's national security interests? Ask Donald Trump those questions.
The American people will decide this. I trust the American people. I know that they're going to go for someone who's really going to take our country forward. I don't think that's going to be Donald Trump. I think he's going to spend more time in court than he's going to spend on the campaign trail. And I think when people understand they can't afford groceries, they can't afford gas, that 1 in 6 American families can't pay their utility bill. Half of American families can't afford diapers. The inflation issue is real, and that's what American families want, is someone who's going to understand they need more cash in their pocket. They want transparency in schools. They want law and order on the streets. They want a secure border, and they want a national security that's going to keep Americans safe.
If you're not with me, then you will die.
Thank you very much, sir. You're going to do a great job.
13 months later, Trump fired.
He also wanted flattery.
I'd ask whether or not you think I will someday be on Mount Rushmore.
He really likes the adulation. In many ways, he's kind of addicted to adulation from his political base, from people around him. I was grateful for the president's disruptive nature. I saw it as my job to try to help him disrupt what needed to be disrupted. If countries don't pay their dues, then we're not going to defend that particular country.
When did you find out that was in the speech?
I found out just, as we were departing for NATO headquarters.
As Trump's limousine pulled up, there was an awkward delay while a frantic intervention took place in the back seat.
I convinced a reluctant Secretary of State Tillerson and Secretary of Defense Mattis to get in the Beast, the president's armored car, with me to talk him out of that.
It was one of the few times the three of them agreed on something.
What were your relations like with the Secretary of State and Secretary of Defense?
So they were less than harmonious. They were difficult at times. They regarded the president as a danger to U.S. interests, a danger to some of our relationships internationally.
The Secretary of State and the Secretary of Defense viewed the President of the United States as dangerous?
Yes, he was dangerous in particular to what they thought an effective foreign policy should be. President Trump sees in authoritarian leaders the qualities that he wants other people to see in him.
Vladimir Putin in particular.
He would appeal to the president's desire for flattery. He would appeal to the president's skepticism about long-term military commitments abroad.
Could Putin play Trump?
He knew really what Trump's predilections were. One of my roles was to alert him to that, to say, Mr. President, this guy is the best liar in the world. If you bring the president a course of action and say, everybody agrees, whatever you do, don't do this thing, he's going to do it just to spite everybody.
With Venezuela's anti-American regime cracking down on protesters,
Trump walked out to meet the press with McMaster, UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, and Secretary of State Rex Tillerson.
Rex Tillerson says to him, hey, Mr. President, whatever you do, don't say that we're planning any military options for Venezuela.
We have many options for Venezuela. And by the way, I'm not going to rule out a military option.
You get used up in that environment, right? President Trump does enjoy kind of pitting people against each other, and that creates a lot of angst in people.
Was he just plain nasty?
At times he can be nasty, especially when he's tired, especially when he's grumpy, especially when he feels beleaguered. There were a couple of times where, nobody wanted to be around him, and I'm like the last guy. I mean, I have to be with him, right? So I would get in the car and he would just unload on me.
The end came after a Trump phone call with Turkey's President Erdogan, which got off to a bad start when McMaster tried to prep him.
What did he have against preparation?
Well, he found it to be tedious, and he had great confidence in his own instincts, right? So, why am I prepping for this?
McMaster decided to quit, but Trump fired him first, and at a private farewell ceremony told his family, make sure he only writes nice things about me.
We're in!
He encouraged an attack, on the first branch of government.
They broke the glass? Everybody stay down! Get down!
And an attack on the peaceful transition of power, and I think that was an abandonment of his responsibilities to the Constitution. Tree doesn't repeat itself, but it does rhyme. I think it does, foreshadow what we might expect in the second Trump administration as well.
I had never met Donald Trump until the day he asked me to be Secretary of State. He acts on his instincts. In some respects, that looks like impulsiveness, but it's not his intent to act on impulse. I think he really is trying to act on his instincts. It was challenging for me, coming from the disciplined, highly process-oriented ExxonMobil Corporation, to go to work for a man who is pretty undisciplined, doesn't like to read, doesn't read briefing reports, doesn't like to get into the details of a lot of things, but rather just kind of says, look, this is what I believe, and you can try to convince me otherwise, but most of the time you're not going to do that. I think part of it was, obviously, we are starkly different in our styles. We did not have a common value system. When the president would say, well, here's what I want to do, and here's how I want to do it. And I'd have to say to him, well, Mr. President, I understand what you want to do, but you can't do it that way. It violates the law. It violates a treaty. He got really frustrated. I didn't know how to conduct my affairs with him any other way than in a very straightforward fashion. And I think he grew tired of me being the guy every day that told him you can't do that.
Careful not to choke on your aspiration.
I'm deeply honored to have worn the cloth of this nation for 43 and a half years. And I'm humbled to have served as the 20th chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But today, it's not about anyone up here on this stage. It's not about the President, the Secretary of Defense, me, CQ. It's not about us. It's about something much larger than all of us. It's about our democracy. It's about our republic. We are unique among the world's armies. We are unique among the world's military. We don't take an oath to a country. We don't take an oath to a tribe. We don't take an oath to a religion. We don't take an oath to a king or a queen or to a tyrant or a dictator. And we don't take an oath to a wannabe dictator. We don't take an oath to an individual. We take an oath to the Constitution, and we take an oath to the idea that is America, and we're willing to die to protect it. Those values and ideas are contained within the Constitution of the United States of America, which is the moral North Star for all of us who have the privilege of wearing the cloth of our nation.
is that document that all of us in uniform swear to protect and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Those who sacrificed themselves on the altar of freedom in the last 2.5 centuries of this country must not have done so in vain. The millions wounded in our nation's wars did not sacrifice their limbs and shed their blood to see this great experiment in democracy perish from this earth. No, we the American people, we the American military, must never turn our back on those that came before us. And we will never turn our back on the Constitution. That is our North Star. That is who we are, and that is why we fight. Thank you, and may God bless our military, and may God bless the United States of America.
I think that whoever we elect in 2024 has to meet a number of criteria. Number one, they have to put country over self. Number two, they have to serve with integrity, with principles. Number three, they have to be able to work with other people. They have to be able to unify the country and lead. And President Trump just doesn't meet that for me.
In your opinion, is President Trump a threat to democracy in this country?
I think based on his actions on January 6th, you can't come to any other conclusion.
What do you believe he was trying to do on January 6th?
I think he was trying to overturn the results of a legitimately certified election and the peaceful transfer of power, both of which are hallmarks of a democracy. And we are the world's oldest democracy. And even attempting to do that really not just hurt our own republic, but undermine the credibility of the United States in the world to speak to these principles.
Mattis writes that when he was sworn into the Marine Corps some 50 years ago, never did I dream that troops taking the same oath would be ordered under any circumstance to violate the constitutional rights of their fellow citizens, much less to provide a bizarre photo op for the elected commander-in-chief, with military leadership standing alongside. The retired Marine general writing in The Atlantic, Donald Trump is the first president in my lifetime who does not try to unite the American people, does not even pretend to try. Instead, he tries to divide us.
He put the country at risk if he was in the White House again. He will always put his own interests and gratifying his own ego ahead of everything else, including the country's interests. There's no question about it. This is a perfect example of that. He's like, he's like a defiant 9-year-old kid who's always pushing the glass toward the edge of the table, defying his parents to stop him from doing it. It's a means of self-assertion and exerting his dominance over other people. And he's a very petty individual who will always put his interests ahead of the country's, his personal gratification of his, of his ego. But our country can't be a therapy session for, a troubled man like this.
Do I like Donald Trump? No. Was he a role model for my sons? Absolutely not. I think he's a terrible human being.
The lions and a traitor. Take it away.
Or two, any word from the missing Jedi Master? Damn, where could he be? He's here. The former vice president is here. Perfect. We'd better move up in the ranks in order to get more insight into the true nature of Emperor Trump.
In our nation's 246-year history, there has never been an individual who is a greater threat to our republic than Donald Trump. He tried to steal the last election using lies and violence to keep himself in power after the voters had rejected him. He is a coward. A real man wouldn't lie to his supporters. He lost his election, and he lost big. I know it, he knows it, and deep down, I think most Republicans know it. Lynn and I are so proud of Liz for standing up for the truth, doing what's right, honoring her oath to the Constitution, when so many in our party are too scared to do so. Liz is fearless. She never backs down from a fight. There is nothing more important she will ever do than lead the effort to make sure Donald Trump is never again near the Oval Office. And she will succeed. I am Dick Cheney.
Sorry, wrong vice president. You can stay in your cell. Perhaps we'll make some more allies in this detention facility.
Your hate has made you powerful.
We have just 4% of the world's population, with 25% of the world's COVID cases. Our unemployment rate is more than twice as high as South Korea's, 2.5 times the United Kingdom's, more than 3 times Japan's. Donald Trump says we're leading the world. Well, we are the only major industrial economy to have its unemployment rate tripled. At a time like this, the Oval Office should be a command center. Instead, it's a storm center. There's only chaos. Just one thing never changes: his determination to deny responsibility and shift the blame. The buck never stops there. Now you have to decide whether to renew his contract or hire someone else. If you want a president who defines the job as spending hours a day watching TV and zapping people on social media, he's your man.
A little short for a stormtrooper?
Minimum, we should expect a president to feel a sense of responsibility for the safety and welfare of all 330 million of us, regardless of what we look like, how we worship, who we love, how much money we have, or who we voted for.
This weird obsession with crowd sizes. The people who will decide this election are asking a very simple question. Who will fight for me? Who's thinking about my future, about my children's future, about our future together? One thing is for certain: Donald Trump is not losing sleep over that question.
I did hope, for the sake of our country, that Donald Trump might show some interest in taking the job seriously. That he might come to feel the weight of the office and discover some reverence for the democracy that had been placed in his care. But he never did. For close to 4 years now, he has shown no interest in putting in the work. No interest in finding common ground, no interest in using the awesome power of his office to help anyone but himself and his friends.
Here's a 78-year-old billionaire who has not stopped whining about his problems since he rode down his golden escalator 9 years ago. It has been a constant stream of gripes and grievances that's actually been getting worse now that he's afraid of losing to Kamala. There's the childish nicknames, the crazy conspiracy theories, this weird obsession with crowd sizes. It just goes on and on.
No interest in treating the presidency as anything but one more reality show that he can use to get the attention he craves. Donald Trump hasn't grown into the job because he can't. And the consequences of that failure are severe. This president and those in power, those who benefit from keeping things the way they are counting on your cynicism. They know they can't win you over with their policies. So they're hoping to make it as hard as possible for you to vote and to convince you that your vote does not matter. That is how they win. That is how they get to keep making decisions that affect your life and the lives of the people you love. That's how the economy will keep getting skewed to the wealthy and well-connected. How our health systems will let more people fall through the cracks. That's how a democracy withers, until it's no democracy at all. And we cannot let that happen. Do not let them take away your power. Do not let them take away your democracy. This administration has shown it will tear our democracy down if that's what it takes for them to win. So we have to get busy building it up by pouring all our efforts into these 76 days and by voting like never before.
From a guy whose act has, let's face it, gotten pretty stale. We do not need 4 more years of bluster and bumbling and chaos. We have seen that movie before, and we all know that the sequel is usually worse. America's ready for a new chapter. America's ready for a better story. We are ready for a President Kamala Harris. On health care, we should all be proud of the enormous progress that we've made through the Affordable Care Act, providing millions of people access to affordable coverage, protecting millions more from unscrupulous insurance practices. I noticed, by the way, that since it's become popular, they don't call it Obamacare no more. But, yes, she can. Yes, she can. A Harris Waltz administration. No nation, no society has ever tried to build a democracy as big and as diverse as ours before. One that includes people that over decades have come from every corner of the globe. One where our allegiances and our community are defined not by race or blood, but by a common creed. And that's why when we uphold our values, the world's a little brighter. When we don't, the world's a little dimmer. And dictators and autocrats feel emboldened. And over time, we become less safe. We shouldn't be the world's policemen, and we can't eradicate every cruelty and injustice in the world. But America can be and must be a force for good. Discouraging conflict, fighting disease, promoting human rights, protecting the planet from climate change, defending freedom, brokering peace. That's what Kamala Harris believes, and so do most Americans. I know these ideas can feel pretty naive right now. We live in a time of such confusion and rancor, with a culture that puts a premium on things that don't last. Money, fame, status, likes. We chase the approval of strangers on our phones. We build all manner of walls and fences around ourselves, and then we wonder why we feel so alone. We don't trust each other as much because we don't take the time to know each other. And in that space between us, politicians and algorithms teach us to caricature each other, and troll each other, and fear each other. But here's the good news, Chicago. All across America, in big cities and small towns, away from all the noise, the ties that bind us together are still there. We still coach Little League and look out for our elderly neighbors. We still feed the hungry in churches and mosques and synagogues and temples. We share the same pride when our Olympic athletes compete for the gold. Because the vast majority of us do not want to live in a country that's bitter and divided. We want something better. We want to be better. Our politics have become so polarized these days that all of us across the political spectrum seem so quick to assume the worst in others, unless they agree with us on every single issue. We start thinking that the only way to win is to scold and shame and out-yell the other side. And after a while, regular folks just tune out, or they don't bother to vote. Now, that approach may work for the politicians who just want attention and thrive on division, but it won't work for us. To make progress on the things we care about, the things that really affect people's lives, we need to remember that we've all got our blind spots and contradictions and prejudices, and that if we want to win over those who aren't yet ready to support our candidates, we need to listen to their concerns and maybe learn something in the process. After all, if a parent or grandparent occasionally says something that makes us cringe, we don't automatically assume they're bad people. We recognize that the world is moving fast, that they need time and maybe a little encouragement to catch up. Our fellow citizens deserve the same grace we hope they'll extend to us.
I've been waiting for you. We meet again at last.
The American dream of upward mobility seems out of reach for some who feel left behind. In a changing economy, discontent deepened and sharpened partisan conflicts. Bigotry seems emboldened. Our politics seems more vulnerable to conspiracy theories and outright fabrication. Bullying and prejudice in our public life sets a national tone, provides permission for cruelty and bigotry, and compromises the moral education of children. The only way to pass along civic values is to first live up to them. People of every race, religion, ethnicity can be fully and equally American. It means that bigotry or white supremacy in any form is blasphemy against the American creed.
This will be the first presidential election since January 6th. On that day, we almost lost everything about who we are as a country. And that threat, this is not hyperbole, that threat is still very much alive. Donald Trump says he will refuse to accept the election result if he loses again. Think about that. He means it. Think about that. He's promising a bloodbath if he loses, in his words. And that he'll be a dictator on day one, in his own words. By the way, this sucker means it. No, I'm not joking. Think about it. Anybody else said that in the past, you'd think he was crazy. He is crazy, but you'd think it was an exaggeration, but he means it. We can't let that happen. Folks, all of us carry a special obligation. Independents, Republicans, Democrats. We saved democracy in 2020, and now we must save it again in 2024. The vote of each of us cast this year will determine whether democracy and freedom will prevail. It's that simple. It's that serious. And the power is literally in your hands. History is in your hands. Not hyperbole. It's in your hands. America's future is in your hands. Think of the message he sends around the world when he talks about America being a failing nation. He says we're losing. He's the loser. He's dead wrong. Many of you are very successful people who travel the world. Name me a country in the world that doesn't think we're the leading nation in the world. Without America, not a joke, think about it. I'm being literal. Who could lead the world other than the United States of America? But guess what? America's winning, and the world's better off for it. America's more prosperous, And Americans are safer today than under Donald Trump. Trump continues to lie about crime in America, like everything else. Guess what? On his watch, the murder rate went up 30%, the biggest increase in history. Meanwhile, we made the largest investment, Kamala and I, in public safety ever. Now, the murder rate is falling faster than any time in history. Violent crime has dropped to the lowest level in more than 50 years. And crime will keep coming down when we put a prosecutor in the Oval Office instead of a convicted felon.
You there, what is your authorization code?
The authorization code. The authorization code. What was that authorization code again?
Authorization code.
You don't need to see my authorization code. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Boring conversation anyways. Which cell is former Vice President Pence in?
Irrespective of the indictment, I want the American people to know that I had no right to overturn the election. And then on that day, President Trump asked me to put him over the Constitution. But I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I mean, I really do believe that anyone who puts themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States. And anyone who asks someone else to put themselves over the Constitution should never be president of the United States again.
Have you come to destroy me?
We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies.
Darth Vance?
I don't really care what happens to Ukraine one way or another.
All right. Perhaps we can utilize Darth Vance to help us get close enough to the Emperor that I can Jedi mind trick him. The Force has a powerful effect on the feeble-minded.
We're effectively run in this country by a bunch of childless cat ladies. I gotta be honest with you, I don't really care what happens to Ukraine one way or another. Donald Trump supporters are not violent people. Was the election in 2020 free and fair? Was it above board? And my answer is no. I really don't think that it was. We're effectively run in this country via the Democrats, via our corporate oligarchs, by a bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made, and so they want to make the rest of the country miserable too. The future of the Democrats is controlled by people without children. And how does it make any sense that we've turned our country over to people who don't really have a direct stake in it? I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. He's exploiting some of the racism that's there, but he's also exploiting people's fears. I think that he's leading people in a very dark direction, and that's ultimately what worries me the most.
Terrible candidate. Idiot if you voted for him. Might be America's Hitler.
Yeah, he said some bad things about me, but that was before he knew me, and then he fell in love.
You don't have to trick him. Just give him a camera and a microphone.
Hey, would you rather have a nice guy that doesn't do anything or a horrible human being like Trump? But Mr. Trump, you're not a nice person. That's true, but actually I am. Well, we have some of the dumbest leaders in the world. We have losers. We have losers. They're losers. They're just losers. We have very stupid people. We have stupid leadership. How stupid are our leaders? How stupid are these politicians to allow this to happen? How stupid are they? We appreciate it very much, Tim Apple. And take a look at the oranges of the investigation. It's great. He's enough. You know, watch having a nice private dinner. And don't raise your voice, folks. This isn't like dealing with Trump. Well, you know what this is? Does everybody know? It's going to be a fantastic prime minister.
What about you, Iranian?
Don't meddle in the Well, he's two-faced. And honestly, he's a nice guy. I find him to be a very nice guy.
President, do you take any responsibility for the fact that you're about to be impeached?
No, I don't take any, zero, to put it mildly. Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that has him in check, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way.
And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant where it knocks you out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
Well, thank you very much, and a very big hello to a place where we've done very well, Sioux Falls. Thank you very much, Sioux Falls.
So Sioux City, let me ask you, and what we saw at Pleasure, what a name right now.
Unfortunately, the wrong name.
Oh, we just left Pleasure.
Paradise.
Or Paradise. And God bless the United States. We are also praying for the people of Puerto Rico. We love Puerto Rico. Puerto. And we also love Puerto Rico. I know words. I had the best words.
Learning to speak does not make you intelligent.
Believe it or not, I watch my words very carefully. There are those that think I'm a very stable genius. ICE officers removed 10,000 known or suspected gang members to measure and other measures. The Iranian people long to, and they just are longing to reclaim, developing an internet, and this is so totally important, an intercontinental.
You know, we just said another stock rocket. You saw that, right? The stock market, Christopher Columbus, the majority of Afghanistan.
I may ask Marilyn Lockheed, Speaker Ryan. I said, Ron, you heard Netanyahu yesterday.
Lumbi Carawa.
Special Agent Celestino Martinez. He goes by DJ.
He diversity lottery with total premedication. Gain momentum.
Believe me.
Made a pivotal, really, and I mean this was pivotal. Police officers,
and you saw that, all of those incredible police officers, their whole state to be a sanctuary, despite these obstacles, Karen.
And the combat infantrymen decided to shield and shelter criminal. Look, wait. I watch our police and our firemen down at 7-Eleven, down at the World Trade Center. This guy is fucking stupid. Boot edge. They say edge.
Nambia.
Thailand. I tested positively toward negative. Right?
New York Times by an anonymous, gutless coward. They sacrifice every day for the furniture and future of their children. Mike Pound.
Wishing you a beautiful look.
This is the very definition of totalitarianism. To improve this country, and you deserve a government. You're going to see some statistics coming out
in April of 2014. Michigan gave us vote time.
One of those Americans will not be tolerated. Texas, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi,
Nevada. Great to be back in Missouri.
I asked Boris, where's England?
The members of our armed forces, a lot of work has been done, a lot of renovation. COVID.
These historic accomplishments shades to immediately waive all applicable heart, lung, and liver transplants. And I know it. I saw it. I saw what, and I know who said it.
You do.
Puerto Rico.
It's called like up here, and it's called memory, and it's called other things. It's my hair. We want every American child to have access to pristine outdoor spaces. When young Americans experience the breathtaking beauty of the Grand Canyon, when their eyes widen in amazement as Old Faithful bursts into the sky, when they gaze upon Yosemite's towering sequoias.
You have voter ID to buy a loaf of bread?
The Democrats.
Ooh, there was a mosquito.
I don't want mosquitoes around me.
I'm a very stable genius. People are flushing toilets 10 times, 15 times, as opposed to once.
Sinks, right? Showers. And what goes with a sink and a shower? 10 times, right? 10 times. Wow, Bob, not me, but something. You want to wash your hands, you turn on the sink, the water comes up. No, get those lights off. Off. You have a shower. It's still good for me. Remember the dishwasher, you press it, boom, there'd be like an explosion.
One of the wettest we've ever seen from the standpoint of water. The worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired, in no condition to lead, and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and possible nuclear war. Just think of, we would be in World War II.
And the great disturbance in the force.
President Xi, very good conversations. I liked him a lot. I told him we shot 57 missiles into Syria while he was having chocolate cake. Much different. We're a forest nation. He called it a forest nation. And they spent a lot of time on raking and cleaning and doing things, and they don't have any problem. And when it is, it's a very small problem. So I know everybody's looking at that.
Do you read your written brief?
I do. I read a lot. You know, I read a lot. They like to say I don't read. I read a lot.
You read your daily
I comprehend extraordinarily well. Probably better than anybody that you've interviewed in a long time. Just say about Russia. Russia used to be a thing called the Soviet Union. Because of Afghanistan, they went bankrupt. They became Russia, just so you do understand, okay? Mr. Pillsbury, the leading authority on China, he was on a good show, I won't mention the name of the show, recently, and he was saying that China has total respect for Donald Trump and for Donald Trump's very, very large brain. One thing I can promise you this, I will always tell you the truth. We built the greatest economy in the history of the world. Best unemployment numbers, best everything. And I gave you the biggest tax cut in the history of our country. We're going to build a wall. Who is going to pay for the wall? Oh boy, these people are bad. What a group of people we have. What a group of dishonest scum we have, I'm telling you. You know, the wall is being built, and we're doing 10 miles a week. It'll be completed very soon. So we're going to Texas. We're going to the southern border. As you know, we completed the wall. They may want to expand it. And Mexico is paying for the wall, by the way, in case you had any question. They say walls don't work. Walls work 100%. We took care of the VA with Veterans Choice. You saw that. What Obama passed was nothing. You can have all the technology in the world. I'm a professional in technology. When during the campaign, I would say Mexico is going to pay for it. Obviously, I never said this, and I never meant they're going to write out a check. I said they're going to pay for it. Where do these people come from? Where do they come from?
They go back home to mommy. They get punished when they get home. $28 billion from China that went to our farmers because they targeted you. We tariffed China a lot of money, and they paid for it. You didn't pay. You know, the fake news likes to say you don't pay. They paid. There has never been, ever before, an administration that's been so open and transparent. I was the most transparent and am transparent president in history. You know, some of the most dishonest people in media are the so-called fact checkers. They say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay? Through the whole Mueller hoax, they did this big report. I was totally exonerated.
Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Your reports expressly states that it does not exonerate the president.
It does. 12 years ago, I was named Man of the Year of Michigan. Can you believe it? Long before I thought about it. You look at what's happening last night in Sweden. Sweden. Who would believe this? Sweden.
Problem is, nothing much had happened in Sweden.
Sweden is accusing Trump of fake news.
By the way, I brought back Big Ten football. It was me, and I'm very happy to do it. If you don't test, you don't have any cases. If we stop testing right now, we'd have very few cases, if any. This is going to go away without a vaccine. It's going to go away, and we're not going to see it again. I could be the most popular person in Europe. I could run for any office if I wanted to, but I don't want to. And I had a meeting at the Pentagon. Lots of generals, they were like from a movie. Better looking than Tom Cruise and stronger. Just received a beautiful letter from Kim Jong-un. I can't show you the letter, obviously, but it was a very personal, very warm, very nice letter. I appreciate it. It was actually a happy birthday letter, if you want to know the truth. It was my birthday. And he sent me a beautiful letter, happy birthday. Which was nice. Please, Russia, please! Please get us the emails! Please! Kellyanne is great, but she's married to a total whack job. I think she must have done some number on him, Ainsley. I don't know what Kellyanne did to that guy. I used to get great press until I ran for politics. I mean, I used to be the king of getting good press. And this is how I got elected, by being off script. Such a nasty one. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything. Poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. Oh, I don't remember. Bringing crime. They're rapists. But we have some bad hombres here, and we're going to get them out. And some, I assume, are good people. Like you wouldn't have your job if you weren't beautiful. They're worried about my tone. Oh, look at my African-American over here. Look at him. Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States. USA! USA! Wow. Don't worry about that, baby. I love babies, though. I like it. What a baby. Actually, I was only kidding. You can get the baby out of here.
And you like all her choices, or you're like, what?
No, not all her choices, but tonight I like it a lot. She looks glad. Pocahontas. That's this Elizabeth Warren. I call her Goofy. ISIS now is building a hotel in Iraq. They're competing with me. You believe it? If Ivanka were my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know?
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick.
Yeah. I don't care how sick you are. I'm the president of the United States. I'm not the president of other countries. Every one of these doctors said, how do you know so much about this? Maybe I have a natural ability. Maybe I should have done that instead of running for president. What do you have to lose? I'll say it again. What do you have to lose? Take it. Hydroxychloroquine. Try it, if you'd like.
A lot of good things have come out about the hydroxy. A lot of good things have come out. I happen to be taking it. If we were testing 1 million people instead of 14 million people, we would have far fewer cases, right? So I view it as a badge of honor. Pelosi is a sick woman. She's got a lot of problems, a lot of mental problems. When somebody's the president of the United States, the authority is total. And that's the way it's got to be.
We are going to win 4 more years. And then after that, we'll go for another 4 years because, you know what, they spied on my campaign. We should get a redo of 4 years.
I don't care how, but you have to get out and vote. And again, Christians, get out and vote just this time. You won't have to do it anymore. 4 more years, you know what? It'll be fixed. It'll be fine. You won't have to vote anymore, my beautiful Christians. I love you, Christians. I'm a Christian. I love you. Get out. You got to get out and vote. In 4 years, you don't have to vote again. We'll have it fixed so good you're not going to have to vote.
The forest fires are starting. They're starting again in California. They said, you got to clean your floors, you got to clean your forests.
I wish science agreed with you.
Hey, well, I don't think science knows, actually.
If I lose to him, I don't know what I'm going to do. I will never speak to you again. You'll never see there. Corona sounds like a place in Italy, a beautiful place. It's Corona. I think this was a blessing from God that I caught it. This was a blessing in disguise.
I have done more for the African-American community than any president, with the exception of Abraham Lincoln. Could you imagine if I lose my whole life? What am I going to do? I'm going to say, I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. I'm not going to feel so good. Maybe I'll have to leave the country. I don't know.
In California, you have a special mask. You cannot, under any circumstances, take it off. You have to eat through the mask. And who was a very distinguished person within the Republican Party? The late, great Abraham Lincoln. Please remember that. He was very presidential. He's the only one I said, maybe I can't be that presidential, but he was very presidential when he wore the hat especially. Well,
we were getting ready to win this election. Frankly, we did win this. I wish we had a fair media in this country. It's so unfair. It's so unfair. You're never going to treat me fairly, many of you. Worst, most unfair press treatment, they say, in the history of the United States for a president. What they did to him is very unfair, in my opinion. And what they did to General Flynn is very unfair, in my opinion. And what they did to so many others is very unfair. I am greeted with a hostile press, the likes of which no president has ever seen. The closest would be that gentleman right up there. They always said Lincoln. Nobody got treated worse than Lincoln. I believe I am treated worse. Yeah, no, I don't take responsibility at all. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. And we would go back and forth, and then we fell in love. Okay? No, really. He wrote me beautiful letters, and they're great letters. We fell in love. Do I have social skills? I don't know. I have social media, that's for sure. This is an island surrounded by water, big water, ocean water. And I met with the president of the Virgin Islands.
Of course, the president of the U.S. Virgin Islands is the president of the United States, Donald Trump himself.
Obama.
Partial birth abortion. Would President Trump ban it?
No, I am pro-choice in every respect. I'm pro-life. Yeah. Mark, very simple. Pro-life.
Worry about that baby. I love babies. So I love babies. I hear that baby crying. I like the mom's running around like, don't worry about it. It's young and beautiful and healthy, and that's what we want.
Actually, I was only kidding. You can get the baby out of here.
I think she really believed me that I love having a baby crying while I'm speaking.
We're all playing a game of chess or poker, but it's not checkers. Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
They buy shoes and they wear them. They scuff them up. They make them sound old.
If you have a windmill anywhere near your house, congratulations. Your house just went down 75% in value.
And they say the noise causes cancer. You tell me that one, okay? You know, the thing makes it so... You think?
A man works for us, with us very closely, Dr. Fauci, and he's got this high approval rating. So why don't I have a high approval rating? Nobody likes me.
You said the other day to suburban women, will you please like me, please?
Oh, I didn't say that. I say jokingly, suburban women, you should love me. The way you have it, it's like, oh, like I'm begging. Play it.
Suburban women, will you please like me? Please.
You know about sexual predators. Sure. All right, but I was going to say that.
And the video captures Donald Trump and Epstein chatting while watching a group of women at the party dance. Trump had knowledge that Epstein liked women who were, quote, on the younger side.
You going up the escalator? I'm going to be dating her in 10 years. Okay. You could see there was blood coming out of her eyes, blood coming out of her wherever.
What's the favorite thing you have in common, Donald, with your daughter?
Well, I was going to say sex.
A big, strong guy grabbed me.
He's all man. Look at him.
Oh, just those big, powerful men.
Big, strong, beautiful guy.
As far as 1 year old, I was a baby. Nobody ever heard of the word trillion until 10 years ago. We landed on the moon to go to Mars, and that's what we're doing with the moon. Trump throws baby. Why did you throw that baby?
Wiggle, wiggle, wiggle.
We won't talk about toilets. I gently tell a woman that I love her baby.
Somebody said the other day, well, he has some psychological problems. It's this. It's not my salesmanship.
It's what?
This. You know what that is?
The QAnon movement has been gaining a lot of followers. Can you talk about what you think about that?
They do supposedly like me. And then we fell in love. The kidney has a very special place in the heart. Canada's happy, but they're not happy like we're happy, but they're very happy. Sometimes you'll see a building, it costs less money than another building that costs more because the one that built the one that costs more. It's called, you have to know what you're doing. I understand things. I comprehend very well. Better than, I think, almost anybody. I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me. We've just launched 59 missiles heading to Iraq.
Well, you headed to Syria.
Yes, heading toward Syria.
If you're not with me, then you're my enemy.
Can you imagine? If I lose, what do I do?
What?
I lost to the worst candidate in the history of politics. He's better than I am. Maybe I'll have to leave the country.
So PPE has been sporadic?
Sporadic for you, but not sporadic for a lot of other people. The CDC is advising the use of cloth face covering as an additional voluntary public health measure. So it's voluntary. You don't have to do it. I don't think I'm going to be doing it.
Donald Trump Jr.'s on cocaine. Mr. President, do you have a drug problem? You know, this guy's really laying for us.
Rip, rip, rip. The upper levels of the FBI. The door kickers love us, not so much the bureaucrat.
The buck stops with everybody.
Iran is a wonderful kindergarten.
I'm going to recuse myself.
Sir, your wife is up in the air.
A person has a baby.
Canine, as they call. I call it a dog.
USMCA, like the song YMCA. It's called You're Dead. My name is Raisin.
A lot of things are the matter with me.
I was a good builder. I built
Big, massive dumps.
I don't even know what I'm doing. Belgium
is a beautiful city. It's a rigged everything.
The whole deal is rigged. Our country is rigged.
It was a rigged race.
There is no serious person out there who would suggest somehow that you could even rig America's elections.
You don't know the power of the dark side.
There's no evidence that that has happened. I'd advise Mr. Trump to stop lying.
Join me. Together we can rule the galaxy.
The world is laughing at us. They think we're stupid. My administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay. They weren't laughing with me. They were laughing at me.
A very tough hombre.
How stupid are the people of Iowa? The metric's right here.
You go out and you want to buy groceries, you need ID.
Why are you so angry anyway? Might it have something to do with the size of your lightsaber?
My hands, if they're small, something else must be small. It was hard to get it aroused, and it is hard to get it aroused.
It moves this way. It moves this way. It moves that way. They're not small, are they? I don't talk about my ass.
Weird obsession with crowd sizes.
I am the chosen one. I take responsibility always for everything. No, I don't take responsibility at all.
You stand by that claim?
I don't stand by anything. It's very important that we totally protect our Asian community in the United States and all around the world. The spreading of the virus is not their fault.
The Chinese virus, Kung Flu.
Excuse me.
According to a new report from Axios, President Trump has been very interested in a brilliant plan to stop hurricanes. Drop a nuclear bomb on them. Trump has reportedly made that suggestion multiple times to senior Homeland and National Security officials, paraphrased by a source who was in the room for one briefing as saying, quote, I got it. Why don't we nuke them? They start forming off the coast of Africa as they're moving across the Atlantic. We drop a bomb inside the eye of the hurricane and it disrupts it. Why can't we do that? The source added the person briefing the president of hurricanes was knocked back on his heels. People were astonished. After the meeting ended, we thought, what the F? What do we do with this?
I said, how good is this plane? They said, well, sir, you can't see it. I said, yeah, but in a fight, a fight like I watch on the movies, a fight, they're fighting. How good is this? They say, well, it wins every time because the enemy cannot see it. Even if it's right next to it, it can't see it. I said, that also had people that were very fine people on both sides. Gave Miriam the Presidential Medal of Freedom. That's the highest award you can get as a civilian. It's the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor, but civilian version. It's actually much better because everyone gets the Congressional Medal of Honor. That's soldiers. They're either in very bad shape because they've been hit so many times by bullets or they're dead. She gets it, and she's a healthy, beautiful woman. It's right.
Do you want to clarify that? Because many veterans are upset about that, including here in Pennsylvania.
No, I didn't hear that. I only heard, when I say better, I would rather in a certain way get it because people that get the Congressional Medal of Honor, which I've given to many, are often horribly wounded or dead. They're often dead. They get it posthumously. And when you get the Congressional Medal of Honor, I always consider that to be the ultimate, but it is a painful thing to get it. When you get the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's usually for other things, like you've achieved great success in sports or you've achieved great success someplace else. When you get the Medal of Honor, generally speaking, and I've met many of them and I've seen the families of many of them, this is an incredible honor, but it was a statement that it's much more painful to get because they're oftentimes in very bad shape. I've seen them come up and they've suffered greatly, whereas the Presidential Medal of Freedom, to my knowledge, I don't think anybody suffered other than they've worked hard and they've done great things. One's a military award, one's a civilian award, but sometimes very painful to get the other.
I'm a better looking person than Kamala.
You can destroy the Emperor.
How stupid are the people of the country to believe this crap?
This is inflation. This is TikTok. This is TikTok. This is inflation. This is what's happened. I just happened to have, somebody gave me this one today. I said, I think we'll put it up as an example of inflation.
They've been alerted to our presence. And that suit was getting a little stuffy anyway.
You will never escape the might of the Empire.
Looks as if we're going to have to fight our way out of here. Stand back. I got this. I may not be a Jedi Master, but the Force is strong with me. What could possibly be so important that he would interrupt right there? Master Skywalker. Yes, of course.
Happy New Year to all, including to my many enemies, and those who have fought me and lost so badly. They just don't know what to do.
The signing of the Declaration of Independence.
Tyranny didn't end with the American Revolution. Not for everyone. Not by a long shot.
We have a special guest, as you can see. Mark Hamill has decided to join us on this wonderful Friday, and I am really excited to turn it over to Mr. Dillon. There you go.
Okay, how many of you had Mark Hamill will lead the press briefing on your bingo card? Hands? Yeah, me either.
Nearly 100 years of elected leadership failed to right that wrong, and Americans went to war with ourselves to fix it. Never before had the truth been so clear. Elections have consequences. It was for this reason that Union soldiers who lived and died by those consequences were able to vote despite being far from home.
Will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election? Well, we're going to have to see what happens. A peaceful transition of power. We'll have to see what happens. Get rid of the ballots and you'll have we'll have a very peaceful, there won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. This is so frightening because he said, the only way I can lose is if it's a rigged election. So he's setting up the idea that unless he wins, it's fraud. That's truly dangerous. You know, I called him Mr. President. He said, you can call me Joe. And I said, can I call you Joby-Wan Kenobi? He liked that.
This was how absentee voting began. Sent from the bloody battlefields across the nation. Now, more than 150 years later, tyranny is looking for a new foothold.
I interviewed you in June of last year. You said the healthcare plan would come in 2 weeks. I have it already. But you've been trying to strike down those existing conditions. I have it already. Where is it? That's the thing. Even as he's saying this, his lawyers are in court arguing to completely take away the Affordable Care Act, including pre-existing conditions, including your children being able to remain on your plan until they're 26. People like the Affordable Care Act. I was honored to be asked to come to the White House to meet the president, the most legislative, successful president in my lifetime. And, you know, I don't have to go through the list of bipartisan infrastructure law, the PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, all of that, inflation, 15 million jobs. Look, it's all good. I mean, I was really thrilled to meet the entire staff because, you know, it's not just one person. It's like a composite endeavor. It'll start getting cooler. You just watch.
I wish science agreed with you.
Well, I don't think science knows, actually. And you notice everybody is wearing a mask. The president and his sidekick are both not wearing masks. This guy couldn't be the president of the PTA.
President Trump has called for the election to be decided on, and only on, those ballots that arrive by November 3rd. If he gets his way, many who cast absentee ballots will not have their vote counted. This will deny thousands of troops serving overseas of their most sacred right, stripping the men and women in our military of the very freedoms they've served and sacrificed to defend. It cannot be allowed to happen.
You said that you don't take responsibility, but you did disband the White House pandemic office.
When you say me, I didn't do it. We have a group of people. I don't know anything about it. I mean, you say we did that. I don't know anything. Every previous president, Republican and Democrat, understood that they bear ultimate responsibility. It's the first president ever. We're doing a great job. Oh, my gosh.
Donald Trump doesn't get to decide the future of America's leadership. The American people do. Make every vote count. And count every vote.
You're living in some episode of The Twilight Zone that I don't want to see. But we can change all that. Voting is going on right now, and everything is on the ballot. And we can't be complacent. I mean, we have to fight till the end like we're double digits behind. I'm very hopeful that he will be out of office come January 20th. Oh, please, please. That's all I want for Christmas. No Star Wars questions, please. He is easily the worst president ever.
If you enjoyed this video expose on Emperor Trump, you are definitely going to want to check this out.
You have failed me for the last time.
It's the Trump test still.